Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Let's get on to covering PIBs of 12th, 14th, 13th and 15th of April 2020. Alright. The first press release is very simple, it's just a data that we already know. Broadly, we do know that India is having a deficit onto its trade balance and we are having invisible balance services, and overall there is a trade deficit. So we know in capital or in balance of payment we are having two accounts broadly. It's the current account and then capital account. In current account, further there is a visible balance and there is invisible balance. Visible balance means trade in goods, that is G, and invisible balance means trades in services. So trade in goods we basically call as, it could be deficit, it could be surplus, but India imports way more than its exports. So we are having trade deficit to the tune of $152.88 billion, that's it. And in the case of invisible balance, that is trade in services, India is having a surplus because India's service sector exports are more than its imports. So that's it. Visible balance deficit is there, invisible balance surplus is there. Overall we are having a trade deficit, that is current account deficit to the tune of $70.16 billion, that's it. So this is enough. Either way it was very simple. We intuitively also know why exactly this is the case, and there was just to reinforce something that we already know. Now this is important, and this basically is about this wholesale price index. So let's just get on to it right away. Index number of wholesale price is there. Base year is important, 2011-12. This is important. Who releases the wholesale price index? By Ministry of Commerce and Industry, that's it. Further, while calculating the wholesale price index, what are the broad criteria? So we are having primary articles. Its weight is 22.62%. Again, nothing to be understood, everything is to be memorized here. Further, at number 2 we are having fuel and power, and its weight is 13.15%. Finally, we are having manufactured products. It's right here, and weight is 64.23%. So clearly we can see among all these three, manufacturing sector has got the highest weight, that is 64.23%, and then we are having this primary articles and weight here is 22.62%, and finally we are having fuel and power and weight here is 13.15%. Alright, so this is it. Everything here is again to be memorized, that's it. Who releases is, what is the base year, that's it. We know Ministry of Commerce and Industry releases it, base year is 2011-12, so we have covered this as well. Now this again is very simple and nothing very important here, still cover it. So what exactly is this? NIOS and HRD Ministry initiated a unique method to ensure effective schooling to reach the unreached directly at doorstep. So COVID-19 infection is there, so we know offline classes are no longer an option, so everything is being turned into online mode now. So same is being done by the HRD Ministry as well. So we are to talk about SWAYAM MOAC platform here. What is this? SWAYAM massive open online courses from class 9th to class 12th by Ministry of HRD, of course. So video lectures are uploaded into this very portal, and one can, if having internet, can access these video lectures for free. This is it. But classes are to be kept into mind. It's not from 6th to 12th, it's from 9th to 12th only, and that's it. But what if somebody is not having internet connection? Then also there is an option. One can have this onto the TV as well. So it's the MHRD Swayam Prabha TV channel. So this is it. Online lectures are there. One can have the live discussions with the teacher. One can put questions as well. But this is not relevant for us. We are no longer studying in 9th to 12th class. What we need to understand is just one thing, that this portal is doing what, and this is by which ministry, because in the year 2016 this was asked. Swayam portal, which was in news, is related to what? So this is related to education, that's it. All the options were very different, so it was a very easy question. Moving on to the next thing. Now this again is carrying lot of science and not very important, but let's just cover it either way. Alright, so what is it? CollabCAD. What is CollabCAD? Atal Innovation Mission, Niti Aayog and National Informatics Center has jointly launched the Collab CAD in ATL schools. ATL schools means schools where there is Atal Tinkering Lab. So we have already studied about this very thing. This is not a new news. ATL lab was launched by Niti Aayog way back in the year 2015-16 maybe. So these are the labs to sort of boost the scientific temper into the students. That's it. So Collab CAD is what? It carries a lot of science. Let me just read it out. Atal Innovation Mission, Niti Aayog and National Informatics Center today, that is on 13th of April, jointly launched the Collab CAD, a collaborative network computer enabled software system. So Collab CAD is basically a software providing what? Providing total engineering solutions from 2D drafting and detailing to 3D product design. Alright. The aim of this initiative is to provide a great platform to students of Atal Tinkering Labs across country to create and modify 3D designs with free flow of creativity and imagination. So this is not for all the students, it is definitely for those schools where Atal Tinkering Labs are there, that's it. This software will also enable students to create data across the network and simultaneously access the same design data for storage and visualization. Context is a lot of scientific sort of, all we have to understand is this: who has launched this, where exactly has it been launched, is it for all the students? Definitely not, it is just for the schools where Atal Tinkering Lab is there. And what Atal Tinkering Lab is, we know, and Niti Aayog is the agency who's carrying this entire operation, and that's it. It is basically a software. Alright. ATL established across India provide tinkering space to children to hone their innovative ideas and creativity. AIM collaboration with NIC's CollabCAD is a great platform for students to utilize the indigenous state-of-the-art made in India software for 3D modeling, slicing to use the 3D printing. This is quite self-explanatory, so we have understood the crux here. This is it. This was not very important, but just for the sake of covering, we have covered it. Now this is important. So what is it? So we have to keep a tab on few details here. Number one, here. What is the consumer price index? So it's an index onto consumer prices, and who releases it? It is released by the National Statistical Office, which is under MOSPI, that is Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. We know recently Government of India has merged CSO and NSSO. So we are only having National Statistical Office now. So Consumer Price Index is released by NSO and the base year is 2012. Base year of wholesale price index was 2011-12 and its base year is, that is, of consumer price index is 2012. Alright. And consumer price index for what? For rural, urban and combined. And combined version is used by the RBI in order to pursue its monetary policy, in order to pursue its inflation target. It's not the rural or urban, it's the combined one that is used by the RBI. Alright, further these things are important here. What all are the broad criteria? Broad criteria are like this. So we are having food and beverages, and the weight of food and beverages is 45.86, combined one we're talking about here, because there is a weight in terms of rural index and in terms of urban index and in terms of combined index, and it's going to be too much for us to memorize. We can broadly have an idea about the combined section as well. So categorization is as such: food and beverage is there, pan, tobacco and intoxicants, number 2. Number 3 is clothing and footwear. Number 4 is housing. Number 5 is fuel and light, and number 6 is miscellaneous. This is the broad category. Alright, and weight is in terms of combined index is the food and beverages with 45.86 is the highest weight it has got, and then the number second is miscellaneous, that is 28.32. Further, number 3 is housing, 10.07%, and then we are having fuel and light, it's 6.84%, and then we are having clothing and footwear, it's 6.53, and then finally we are having pan, tobacco and intoxicant, it's 2.38%. Again, this is bit difficult, bit boring as well, but then this is how it is. It's important. Please go through it once again if you haven't gotten over it, but either way it's very, very simple, and moreover it's just a revision sort of thing. We're not really trying to delve into much into details here. Now this PIB is extremely important. This is about the sovereign gold bond scheme. This is not a new scheme, but just because the details have resurfaced, so let's just go through it in a very good manner, because this PIB itself is very self-explanatory. So alright, first of all, what is the name? Sovereign Gold Bond 2020-21. This is the bond that Government of India would be issuing. That's it. Who would be issuing? Who is the issuing authority? RBI on behalf of Government of India. Who can buy these bonds? Who are eligible to buy these bonds? The bonds will be restricted for sale to resident individuals. Now, it's not the citizens point, it's the resident individuals. So, individuals whosoever is residing in India, this is what it means. Then Hindu undivided families, then trust, then universities and the charitable institutions. Now, there is no etc. attached here. It means the criteria is very specific to resident individuals, Hindu undivided families, trust, universities and charitable institutions. That's it. Denominations is this: the bonds will be denominated in multiples of grams of gold with a basic unit of 1 gram of gold. So, at least 1 gram of gold worth of bond has to be bought by the people. The denomination minimum is this, maximum could be not anything, it is also clearly there. We'll go into that as well, but let's just proceed as per the PIB. Tenure. Now moving on to the tenure. The tenure of the bond is period of 8 years with the exit option after 5th year to be exercised on the interest payment date set. It's not very important, but still we have gone into it. So, maximum is at 8 period, one can exit it, but even after 5th year too, one can exercise the option on the payment, on the interest payment date. That's it. Maximum size. So, minimum permissible investment will be 1 gram of gold, minimum size, sorry. So, we have already studied this, denomination minimum is 1 gram. Maximum limit is also there. The maximum limit of subscription shall be 4 kg for individual, 4 kg for Hindu undivided family and 20 kg for trust and similar entities per fiscal. So, that's it. This is again something to be memorized, nothing much to be understood here. That's it. Further, again these points are also important, that redemption price point is important. So, it's not like if one has bought the bond, then gold bond, then redemption would be in terms of physical gold. No, redemption would be in the form of Indian rupee only. Either way, I am sure Mrinal sir has explained this thing very well when this thing was actually launched in 2015-16 maybe. So, this is either way obvious. Why would Government of India be handling over the physical gold to the people? Entire idea behind bringing in this scheme was just to make sure that people don't go for buying or holding the gold. So, this is either way obvious. Common sense has to be applied here. Redemption price is in terms of the rupee. That's it. And how that would be calculated, this is not important. Only this point is important, that the redemption would not be in terms of gold, physical gold, it would be in terms of Indian rupee. That's it. Alright, next point that is important is what? Collateral. This point is important, that bonds can be used as a collateral for loans, because when government was trying to promote this scheme, this thing was also there, that if you now go for buying the gold bond, then you can use this very bond as a collateral to avail loan from the any bank all over India. There was one of the utility behind opting for this very scheme. So yes, bonds can indeed be used as a collateral for loan. That's it. Further, KYC, that is know your customer documentation, would be applied. This is either way obvious. Why would it not be applied over here? Tax treatment is also there. The interest on gold bonds shall be taxable as per the provision of Income Tax Act 1961. That's it. This is quite self-explanatory. Interest on bonds taxable, but the capital gains tax arising on redemption of sovereign gold bonds to the individual has been exempted. So, exemption is to the individual only, not to the Hindu undivided family or to the trust. And exemption is for the capital gains tax. Capital gains tax, we all know what it is. It's like, I'm not going to be taking this example, we'll be taking very simple example. Suppose something been bought at rupees 100, at the time of its sale, its value has been turned out to be rupees 200. So, asset value from 100 has gone to 200, 100 rupees turned out to capital gain. No tax onto this if this is by the individual, but if it capital gain is earned by some Hindu undivided family or any other entity, definitely the taxation would be there. This is it. That's it. No, there are certain more points to be covered. Tradability thing is also important. So yes, bonds will be tradable on stock exchange. This is either way simple. So bond carries a lot of utility. It can be used to avail the loans. It can be traded onto the stock exchange. SLR eligibility. This is very, very important. So bonds acquired by the banks through the process of invoking this shall be counted towards the statutory liquidity ratio. It's like if banks are buying these bonds, then those would be calculated under the statutory liquidity norms. We know banks are to keep aside certain portion of their assets into SLR. This could be in the form of cash, in the form of government approved security, or basically RBI approved security, or in the terms of gold, in the form of gold. So this too would be categorized under SLR. That's it. So this is it. This was really important. Kindly pause the video, try reading it once again, because UPSC is in habit of asking some questions onto the topics that were in news 2-3 years back. This is very important. So this is the reason we have covered this. So we are done with the PIBs of 12th, 13th, 14th and 15th of April 2020. Maybe there is one more. Yes, there is one more, and this is not very important, but just so as to not leaving out anything, we are covering it. So what is it? Let me just read it out. Yukti, this is Yukti is what? Young India combating COVID with knowledge, technology and innovation. That's it. Union HRD Minister has launched a web portal, Yukti. Now, I really don't think UPSC going to ask us about all the web portals that were launched during this 15 to 20 days period because of COVID-19 infection. It will really very unimportant thing to be asked by UPSC, but still we have covered it. So an idea would suffice, although there is a lot of detail here, but we really don't need to go into it. If you got a very inquisitive mindset, kindly pause it and read it, but that's not needed. Yukti is what? Young India combating COVID with knowledge, technology and innovation by HRD Ministry. So basically we know offline classes are not being held, everything is going to get online. So HRD Ministry also trying to make sure that the education institution somehow are getting required help from the government side also in order to reach out to the students. So this is it. This portal would provide the two-way communication. It's written right over here. So the portal will also establish a two-way communication channel between the Ministry of HRD and the institution, so that the ministry can provide the necessary support system to the institution, so the institution in turn can provide the necessary support to the student. That's it. So we are done with the PIBs of again 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. Thank you so much for watching and goodbye.